kind of feel like I want to do like The View this morning, you know, just talk with you all.
Yes.
This is sort of like mind-blowing what's been going on the last day and a half, yeah? So welcome, here we are. It's a wrap. So many things to talk about, think about. I want to kind of start maybe with the business side of things. Like we know there's like a chasm to cross, like connecting business, the learning practices, etc. So what has struck you? And you can talk about, you know, things you've heard at the summit, things you just know from wherever, the book, you know, anything. So the business, and welcome everyone. Also, big shout out. Thank you, Bowdeya, for joining us today. Wall Street Journal, yes? Okay, awesome. Great to have you here, Sandra. You want to start? Business, let's connect some business to this.
First.
Yes,
I'm a business lady. I think that it's, I forget the person who was speaking yesterday, but he was the CEO of a local, like Purdue? No, I forget what it was. But he was a CEO, and he was talking about how he learned the fact that his employees were struggling with basic things that were getting in the way of being able to do their actual job. And I thought that was such a fantastic and kind of kernelized way to think about one of the biggest issues that we as a people field face with our work, which is that we don't frame our people problems in terms of business outcomes. We frame them in terms of it's good for people, and that's true, but it's good for people so that the business can thrive. And we very rarely get to that next phase in the conversation. So what I really liked in a lot of the sessions in the past day and a half has been that orientation toward this not just helps people, it helps the business thrive. And we need to, again, as people, start to reframe our message, not to discount the value of people, but to frame the value of people in the context of the value to the organization. Because who's funding all of our initiatives? The business. What do they care about? The business. And it's our job to help them understand that people are the engine of business, and if our engine is not tuned, our business cannot thrive. So I just loved that undercurrent in a lot of the discussions this past day.
Perfect, yeah, and Angela next,
Yeah,
because it's right on the title of your book, you know, it's so good.
Absolutely is, and I just want to pick up on that. As I've talked to many chief people officers in the audience over the last 2 days, they talked a lot about how their budgets are being reallocated to agentic AI and AI. And they're thinking about how they can begin building the business case for themselves in this moment. Because while you have new technology, people still need to learn how to use that technology. So more than ever, instead of decreasing our people and training budgets, we should be thinking about increasing them. But Sandra, that goes to your point. We're not tying the impact of investing in people to the business outcomes.
Yeah, so well said. Yeah.
You know, one of the, this might not be on. Sorry.
It's hard to tell, you can't quite
That's all
hear
right.
up here. Yeah.
One of the biggest things I hear from leaders across the, not just C-suites, but just across Chicagoland, across, you know, business leaders across the world is like, one of their fundamental problem that I hear most commonly is, and what I see, people are struggling to figure out how to make decisions. And a lot of that is around, you know, you could say there's unprecedented business uncertainty, there's economic challenges, there's technological challenges, there's workforce challenges, and I think the biggest thing that I hear is just like, we really don't know what to do. And so there's, like, in some ways, there's a crisis of confidence, there's, you know, people are sort of grasping for answers. And so one of the biggest things that I think, and I'm sure that came out of the conference, but also sort of the big ask is like a lot of people, at least at the top of organizations, they're looking to, you know, everyone's looking a level down to figure out, okay, what are the most creative solutions that we could develop, find, buy, talk to, collaborate on, to try to figure out, like, how do we attack these really big problems? Because if you're looking at, like, workforce development issues, this isn't just like, oh, we don't have enough skills, right? We don't have the right people. Like, well, maybe we're not in the right place, maybe we're not fishing in the right pond. And so it's gonna take sort of more than one. You can't look at these issues sort of in a, you know, in a silo. You have to look and say, okay, are there things that we can do to potentially attack multiple problems? Because a lot of times, the problems that exist for us and that exist for leaders, the answers aren't just in one place. So I think it's really going to take a lot of, at least among leaders, it's going to take a lot more creativity to figure out how to address things. It's not, like I said, it's not just like a build, buy, collaborate. It's probably going to be a combination of things. It's probably going to be partnering with other institutions. It's probably going to be, okay, let's like look within our industry set and figure out like, are there things that we could do? So I think, what I hear is just like people are sort of struggling to make decisions, and the answer is really, okay, we need like more creative solutions to really address these big problems.
And I think you're right. I was just going to say, we need a new playbook. And that's what this summit was all about reimagining how work was done. Most of us in this room grew up during a model. There was a different social contract with work. The headwinds with AI, and to your point, everyone's struggling about what to do because they're still using the same playbook, besides taking a beat and saying, how do we reimagine everything that we thought was true? How do we think about people differently? How do we think about training differently? How do we think about deep partnerships and hiring and upskilling talent and finding them differently? And that's what this moment is calling for.
Yeah, I think that's such a good call out. You both said so many things that I kind of like, put a pin in it because it's a good segue to a couple other things to dig into for sure. So the first segue I'll pick is sort of like connecting the theoretical to the practical. I think that, there was a lot of effort in the agenda for the summit to really try to tie those things together. And I heard some different strands of conversation, and one word that was jumping out at us a lot was community. Now, community's got lots of definitions, and so I wanted to sort of call that out as part of one of the pillars, are stronger together, thinking about community, and just have each one of you talk about an example of connecting the theory of what a community was trying to do and then how it happened, like the practical application of a community effort. Who wants to go first?
I'm happy to start.
Okay, good. I can see Sandra thinking. That's
Yes,
what
she's
you guys.
thinking. So one thing that we did with partnership with the Koch Foundation is we wrote a case study about a private organization called Juergens, Inc. And I want to tell their story because the CEO had this mindset of developing what he called a big tent. And so they're in advanced manufacturing. If you know anything about advanced manufacturing, there's many times labor shortages of skilled labor to do the jobs. And so he thought, we tried to hire the old ways. We went for degrees, we went to the big schools. We're not finding people who are coming to Cleveland. So what he did 5 years ago was to begin partnering with local community colleges, also the high schools, to build apprenticeship pathways into their company. He said, we have to start training them early, not even training them, but building awareness that this is actually a job and an opportunity in their community where they can stay. It's been 5 years now, and some of those first apprentices who started in high school, they're now 5 years later, some of them have moved into management. And what they've been able to tell me, and when we talk about the ROI of this, when I talk to their head of HR, she goes, we save on talent cost, we save on time to productivity, because these are people who already know the organization. They started here when they were 17 and 18. We save cost on retention because they stay longer. And then he told me when he talked about the big tent mentality, he also thought about looking at other places different. So looking at returning citizens. Again, looking at talent in a different way, working shoulder to shoulder with the workforce boards, community colleges to train different. And now they're seeing the ROI 5 years later, and they're doubling down on that. And if you're curious to learn more, we put that case study in your app, and you can see that and look through how that program opened up.
I was going to say, at least from the Wall Street Journal, these types of opportunities are sort of interesting to us. So that was one I wasn't totally familiar with. But I think one big thing that Angela talked about, but I think it's going to be something that's going to confront a lot of different companies, especially as we go through this technological change and trying to figure out what are the skills that we need to do the thing, whatever the thing is, right? From our point of view, and what we're trying to understand is, there's going to be incredible pressure on the workforce and what the ask of those folks are. So I think from us, what we're interested in is how are companies thinking about ultimately what skills that their people need. We're trying to figure out how companies are either turning to technology or using technology to potentially automate tasks. We're trying to understand how companies, especially those maybe in manufacturing or folks where, you know, there have been historic jobs like labor shortages, what tools are they doing, what tools are they using to try to figure out and how to address these like long running problems. And so from us, like if there's manufacturing partnerships, if there's other things like that that are like seem to work, we want to know about it, because it's not just us that want to know. I'm sure there's folks out here in the audience that absolutely want to know as well.
Oh man, that's a wonderful. Is that your give?
Yeah, that's it.
I'm
Give
liking
and
it.
an ask.
So when I hear the word, I mean, lots of different thoughts come to mind with the concept of community, but I think the one that I just decided to pick because it's most resonant for me kind of touches on what you were saying, which is the fact that we are, I think Kaysan said this, like we're in the midst of the revolution of work. We don't all feel it yet, but it is here, and it's being felt in different sectors of the world. So it's being felt right now in software, which is where my company operates very heavily. So my company, like we're professional services, like we have historically sold time to build software. This is a bad business model today. Because software, and we're the ones who are disrupting it, software can be done in large part by agents. So what does that mean for us as a business? We are in a situation, and everyone else, I think, will start to find themselves in this as the technology progresses and as industries begin to adapt it, where we need to look at, as a community, as a business, how are we going to thrive going forward? What does that mean? And one of the things, and there's many elements that I think are fantastic about the way that my company is addressing this, but one of them is built on the fact that we, and always have, but continue to look for who do we have in our organization? What are the skills that they have? What are the goals that they have? What is their background? What is their experience? What brings them joy? What is the best way to optimize them for the business? And we do this by collecting unprecedented amounts of data around people and giving the data to the right people to make the decisions to help optimize the workforce. This is going to help us as we address and collectively deal with the disruption coming from AI. I cannot promise you that it is going to save us. But the fact that we have such a fantastic view of ourselves and each other and the environment in which our business operates, I think that we are going to be very well positioned to muddle through this together, because we will know what our challenges are, and we will know who is best positioned in the organization individually and collectively to help address that. And I think that is a sense of like we're in this together permeates the organization from the executive team down to the front line, and I think that is just a factor of having for the past 30 years been committed to understanding our employees and optimizing our business through each individual.
I was just remembering Kathleen, Maddie, I just want to point you out, the dashboard that she had yesterday. And she said, you know, when we were looking for skills and we had unfilled positions, I used to have to call, maybe in substance, she said 10, 20 managers to find out who would be a good fit. Because we're using data in new ways, we can now go into our dashboard and put the skills that we need and come up with a list like that. And that's what we're talking about in using technology in novel ways. And like you said, deeply understanding the people, their motivations, what they have done and what they can do.
Perfect, because I definitely wanted to talk about the data. I'm kind of a data dork, so we were going to go here. So thank you for that. Because, and I think Bowdeya, you were kind of hinting at this a moment ago too, sort of like we have to look at things differently. It's a call on the new playbook, and I do think that the data is a big deal in the playbook. So let's go kind of freestyle here, because you know we heard some great stuff here. I was thinking the same thing when I saw the Delaware North. It's like, oh look, they're looking at their people. Like who do we have already? But Bowdeya, maybe over to you. Like, and you know, just how do you see data as, you know, not only disruptive but like transformational for what we're trying to talk about and solve here?
One, data is currency, right? It is, you know, but like currency, it sort of depends how you use it and the amount of value you derive from it depends on like how well you understand it and how well you could sort of make it work for you. One thing that organizations are sort of trying to sort of muddle through and figure out, and what the technology revolution is going to push people to, it's going to force people to figure out like, what is my value add? And so, which is a form of data, right? Like there's information in that. So it's like, so each person, you know, is going to have to sharpen that. Like, what do I bring to the table? Like, and obviously leaders are going to have to figure out, okay, what are the skills? What is the information? What is the data that I need to position my like enterprise for the highest and most optimal levels of success? So I think, you know, how is data going to be used? It's going to be governed by, you know, it's going to be governed by laws, and, you know, ultimately how you can collect it, how you can use it. But like, what companies are going to have to figure out is like, what is the information that I need that is ultimately going to help me be most successful at what I'm doing? Yeah. That data might live with your customer, right? And so you might be harvesting that already. But, you know, with all the information that you have, it's on paper, it's in like myriad systems. Like what companies are trying to figure out to do is like, how can I actually derive the insight that I need from, like, maybe there was a presentation that had all this like fantastic material from 2020, but it's in some legacy system that I can't get to. Like what is the tool, or how can I actually extract that information, or potentially get all the insights from the two senior leaders that are potentially leaving, and they have all the knowledge of how to do the processes and how to like work with the customers. How can I like get that data from their minds or from whatever like notes they have, and how can I use that to potentially like, you know, keep the enterprise going? And so those are the decisions and like the discussions that like companies are going to have that you know, from all accounts, to hopefully be successful in the future.
I am so nodding my head. You know, we all know like the master strategic plan that sits in a binder on the shelf, you know, and it's like all the big ideas aren't accessible. Sandra, you're next because you got a lot, but one second. I want to go out to the audience, look around the room. How many of you have like data officers, chief data officers? You can just kind of nod, smile, chief data officers. And then are those data officers at the table with you as learning officers and HR teams? Just curious, kind of a little... Sort of, maybe. Okay, good. Go.
Yeah, that's my like mantra, you know. So I had said that my company does software, right? We're being disrupted. Do you know what we're gonna do now? All the data stuff. The past, the differentiator for business was software. The future, it's going to be data. Being able to, as you talked about, right, getting information out of the heads of people, documenting processes that just happen somehow that no one's ever written down, right? When you think about the future of AI natives, so companies that are being built in somebody's garage right now, that are going to do the jobs that our companies do today, the major difference between them and us is that their data are going to be findable, they're going to be clean, and they're going to be coordinated. And that includes, very importantly, that includes the data around people. In addition to having the right data to build the right AI, to automate the right processes, to create efficiencies in operations, to understand the business, one of the most valuable things that these companies will do is deeply understand their people, because they want to put the right people in the right place where they're going to be optimized to do the best work. And because they're building their systems from the ground up, that is going to be like a unifying and foundational principle. And so when I think about what we as people leaders should be doing, it is to articulate the human value of business in the terms that a business understands, but also to present our business partners with data, actual, concrete data, not just on how our programs are being impacting the workforce, but the workforce itself. Because leaders actually don't understand their workforce, and they know that. And it is what keeps a lot of executives up at night, because it is the biggest unknown and one of the biggest costs in any organization. And so, like, I want to just piggyback on the point that you made. We have all these people conversations, but where's our technology partner? Where's our data partner? Like, these are no longer silos that can function effectively in a business. If we're not working in partnership, we will not help our companies thrive for humans or for our shareholders and investors.
I'm just so excited what you've got. I just want to stay on the data theme. So Dr. Jackson, I think you have other things to say because look at all the data you put together and look at the story that came together.
Well, absolutely. And I think what was fascinating as I did my research, and I looked at over 1,700 companies, and looking at the ones that were thriving and trying to understand what were those practices, how were they looking at the ROI of those practices. And what I was struck by was that there were a lot of companies that didn't understand their people analytics on the business side. They didn't understand the drivers. They were doing programs and it cost them money. They didn't know what the return on investment of those programs were. And that's scary because then when budgets are tight, they do away with programs without knowing if they're really effective or not. Or sometimes they keep ineffective programs because they feel like it's the right thing to do. And I think in this moment, as Sandra, you so beautifully said, we can't afford to do that anymore. When we talk about the speed of change, the technology needs, and the fact that every worker, to your point, will need to add value. Not only are going to be changing jobs in companies, they're going to be changing positions within a company. For companies to be successful, and I've been seeing this through my research, they're having more generalists. They're cross-training people. They're expecting to have less people. And so they need people who know how to learn and be nimble with that. And so that's the future that we're looking at as we look forward.
I know, so easy to say. It's not easy to do, but it's so, like, here are the conversations, and here are the people in the room to make things happen. I think I overheard, I can't remember if it was a speaker or I just was hearing a conversation, but we were sort of that term, that continuous transformation concept, and that, this is, you don't just flip the switch, you don't just get it done, you don't just all of a sudden get your data organized. The first data reports you output may or may not tell you the story that you're looking for, might not have the right things. So I kind of want to just latch on to continuous transformation. We are the closing session, so we should see what we might suggest for a next step, an easy thing to think about. I think when I go to a conference, I try to make a commitment to myself, something I'm going to do different or try different. So here's your chance, audience, to hear some gold nuggets on how to embrace the next step or the steps on the continuous transformation toward a win-win workplace. Bowdeya, what do you think? Got a thought?
Continuous transformation.
Yeah.
That's hard. It's hard to sort of wrap your head around because, like, you wake up tomorrow, like you go to sleep today, wake up tomorrow, and like you're already transformed. It's a new day, it's a new opportunity, it's all of that. So I think to me, the best way to probably attack it is just to say, you know what, I'm not going to, like, if I have a task or a list of 25 things, it is not reasonable to expect me to complete that list of 25 things that are going to transform my enterprise overnight or even over the next month. But maybe, just maybe, there's like one thing that you could say, you know what, this is how I'm going to win today. Or there's two things that I'm going to do to win the week or the month. Maybe there's one client that I've been really working hard to try to get, and this is like my first quarter goal that I want this client to increase their spend with me, and that's going to be that's my transformational goal. So I think to me, the best way to think about it is baby steps. Like, you're not gonna, like, what's the best way to eat it? What's the best way to eat an elephant? One bite at a time, right? You're not gonna take it all out. So that's, as I think about it and as I talk to leaders who talk about like what steps they are taking to be successful, it's that. Like, yes, you can have your big, hairy, audacious goal for sure. That's great. But realistically, like, if you're thinking especially in terms of continuous transformation, it's got to happen over time, and it's not all going to happen quickly.
I love that. It's almost like give yourself a little grace. It's just going to take what it takes.
Yeah, one thing I think a lot about, and I'll tell just two quick stories. One is, I started my career in the corporate sector, and I remember working at Paramount, and we would have DVDs. And the big conversation we had at Paramount was how we could stop people from duplicating DVDs, right? Because we didn't want to risk our sales. All that while that was happening, you've got Netflix that was thinking about digital transformation. And so when I talk about the old playbooks won't work today, that's exactly it. Fast forward, it happens again. I was working for MTV Networks. I had a colleague right beside me who had the idea of doing digital music for MTV. And they're like, no, we're fine. 2 years later, everyone on my floor at MTV had an iPad, or what was it called back then?
The little iPod, yeah. I had one of those, yeah.
Everyone had an iPod, but we had the playbook by then. We were on top. Our ad sales were doing good. We didn't see the shift in front of our eyes, and we weren't doing what I talk about in the book in this framework of centering deep listening of our people. We had a peer that was sitting around the corner, and we didn't want to invest in R&D and the learning because of that. And now no one's talking about MTV, sadly, except the news that it's going down in share, and everyone's still talking about Apple. And so my advice to you is this deep listening, this is happening in front of our eyes. Our people who are on the front line know this. They're seeing things and they can add value. We just need to listen to them and bring them in. And I say for the people here, we are the closest to that transformation that's happening. So make sure that you're having a seat at the table.
Okay, so we've got one step at a time. Be sure you're listening. These are great. Oh my gosh, over to you.
Whenever, I don't know if you guys feel the same way. When I hear continuous transformation, I just get tired. Like,
I rolled a cliche out.
Like, I'm already tired. And like, I'm trying to imagine how I myself, my business, all of us collectively are going to thrive in a time of even more uncertainty and rapid pace of change. I sometimes just want to just go back to bed because I don't know how that's going to happen. But I guess I would say, a few things. Number one is that we as human beings have a limited capacity to handle that much change. We, like, just physiologically and emotionally, we just have a limit. And so as I listen to all of these people procrastinating or prognosticating about the future and how humans are going to be super optimized, I have to think, like, we're still going to need to do some boring stuff, you guys. Like, we're still going to have to slow down sometimes just because our bodies and our minds and our hearts can't handle the pace of change. So I think that we need to just, put a limit on, like, a realistic check on our understanding of what continuous change really will mean for us. Will it be fast? Yes. Will it be painful? No doubt. Is it a little bit scary? I'm scared. But we have to also trust the fact that we as a community of human beings understand our limitations and will, just through sheer force, allow ourselves to get some of that breathing room. The other thing that I would say is thinking about how people handle change in any environment. The way that we handle change is first going to bed and crying about it for a little bit, but then getting up and making a plan and trying to look down the road, see where things are, plan against that, take a step, take the next step, and keep going. And so when I talk to executives about how they're going to handle the change, I say all the things like, let's have data, let's build processes, let's have governance infrastructure, let's be listening to all the different constituents who can help us understand where we're going and how we're doing as we're trying to get there. But I think we just need to recognize that the old playbook, to repeat what you said, is not going to work. And we just have to, put it to bed, cry about it, and just get up in the morning and make a new plan and take a step forward and just keep going. Because as a society, I don't know that we have any other choice. And just trust that we're going to get through this, because we're going to get through this as a species together.
Wow, that's big. I also kind of a little bit read between some of the lines that, I think there's some comfort in the data too. There's some comfort in facts, like that helps blaze a trail going forward. As much as I would like to jump off and go down another rabbit hole, I'm gonna let us wrap up. But Dr. Angela Jackson, congratulations on the summit, and the last words are yours.
I think my last words is first, thank you, thank you, thank you. Thank you to everyone that's sitting here. I've been telling people to have research that you've done over a decade and to see practitioners like yourself actually putting it into action, thinking about how we can reimagine workplaces, thinking about how we can actually look at the ROI of investing in people is kind of a life's dream for me. And so I think the call to action to you all, two things. One is we're planning to stay in touch with you. We're building a community around the Win-Win Workplace, and so we will be in touch. We have funders and partners who want to pilot ideas with us. Two, we want to write more of the case studies of the great work that you're doing, so you'll absolutely be hearing with us. And I think with this community of visionaries, we can actually shift to a win-win workplace because it's happening. You are leading it, and you're leading the change. So again, I want to thank you all for being here today over the last 2 days. It's been amazing. Thank you.